Hey, Lean fans. So we got a really interesting call. One of our customers, near and dear to our heart, because they're a customer of Quantum Lean, which is awesome. And oh my God, I was just in their morning meeting. These guys are on another level. They're also a Stolbeck customer. They are a proud owner of that baby right there. And so we got, the call was interesting. So the call was talking to the owners, and they said they got a problem in finishing. They're struggling. Finishing is the bottleneck. And I think that this is a pretty common problem in the woodworking industry. So we came in for the week, and we're going to work with the team and see what we can do. Now, usually finishing bottlenecks are, we have this notion that if we just had more money or we just had more equipment, then our finishing bottleneck would go away. And why this call was so interesting is because there is zero lack for equipment. Let me give you let me show you what they got. So this is the finishing room. First station here is a panel cleaner, so everything goes in clean. Then we've got a fully automated spray line, which then parts can come off the spray line into a little flash off room, and then they go in here. Ooh, oh wow, this is nice. I'm gonna stay in here for a little while. We've got the infrared drying. We got, and just adjacent to that, we've got, they've got tons of comps. They've got the cyclone mix. Just all of the awesome things that makes life easy. And then on the other side, we've got a nice big manual spray booth. Then we go outside of the booth and around the corner into the prep area. And we come into the prep area here, and as you can see, look how dialed these guys are. I love it. Not a stone unturned. Total lean maniacs. We've got Cosmo, robot sander. Then we've got more sanding stations with another downdraft table. All their supplies there. It looks like some more carts. So very, very well equipped prep area. Got room for incoming parts here. So yeah, you got to be thinking the same thing I am. You're wondering what and why is there a bottleneck in their finishing area. It seems kind of crazy, and I guess that's why I'm here. For some reason, I love these challenges. So we're gonna, step one, we're gonna meet with the team off of the shop floor, just in a classroom setting, and we're gonna get some of the math out of the way. So what I mean by that is I kind of like to get everybody just, in front of a whiteboard, and we're gonna do, not a full-on value stream session. That's Lynn's gig. She's better at it than me. But what we want to do is what we're asking of all of the people and equipment even feasible. Mathematically, is it feasible? Because if on a whiteboard we can't lay it all out and it doesn't make sense, then in reality it's going to be even harder. So first, I want to prove mathematically what we're asking is possible, and then we've got to try and unsurface the gremlin that's causing the bottleneck. So while I wait for the team to get up to the lunchroom, I'm looking around and I'm just like, man, I got to do a lean tour of this place too. So before I leave, I got to make sure I do a lean tour. They're just dialed. Their improvements are awesome. Their meetings are awesome. They've got, they've got the quantum lean standards everywhere. Just, oh man, look at this. Employee goal. Okay, I'm doing the tour now. I won't do the tour now, but I'll do one before. So we've been doing math for the last probably hour. And if you could see the room, there would be a lot of smoke coming out of all of our ears. You can keep talking.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm more thinking, but so
I'm a big fan of using what we got and what we had. We're salt shakers. So each salt shaker represents a rack moving through the finishing room. Everyone was contributing and bringing great ideas to the table.
What number one takeaway that I've had is identifying our internal customers from this diagram, showing it's developed in the shop. We have products that are purchased, products that are made, and then products that flow through custom. This helped me for time-wise, and then actually being able to identify and lay out our flow order of our different cells, going from prep to our spray line, to our oven, to our cooling, having our 3 buffers, and then back out, and actually just seeing time and like the math and the information behind it.
Cut. I know. I think it puts it into perspective a lot more when you see it visually put down on the board of how well basically the trees flow through everything. That's my biggest takeaway from that. Just visualizing it instead of doing it every day, all day. Seeing it finally written down on how things flow through that room it's nice for me. So it makes sense.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway I think is just understanding, you know, every step in the process and the actual time that they take. So when we look at, you know, how long is every part running through our raw wood sanding versus when they're primer, you know, top coat, different things, and how much time they take to dry, to cool before they can be taken on to the next process. It's nice to be able to lay out the entire job from beginning to end to see, you know, when do we expect that job to actually be completed.
Having the Sleep 3 solutions to every problem.
Oh, talk about taking action. These guys didn't mess around. Immediately got their buffers marked out on the floors so that we have somewhere for our new finishing process to happen. And they're continuing that work here. So they're creating a lot of really good visual control so there's no confusion going forward. Like building full of rock stars. Okay, so as you can see on our crazy board here, there is a lot going on. So what I wanted to do was walk you through kind of how we ended up with this big giant mess, but for the benefit of everybody watching, like what was the systematic approach to how we came up with the solution we came up with, and then we'll talk about the solution. Okay, so for step 1 always is what's the target? So the first thing we established was what did they need to paint in a day? Then we went, how long do we have in a day to do that? So we just wanted to make sure, first, what we're asking is mathematically possible. So then we went through each piece of equipment and we asked, can that piece of equipment do it? So we started off with, well, we have to raw sand everything. Does the robot have the capacity to sand everything we need to do in a day? And it does. Then we went to, okay, what's next? The spray line. Does the spray line have the capacity to spray everything we need in a day? Well, I mean, if you know anything about spray lines, emphatically the answer is yes. And truth be told, the answer is so much more. A spray line, I don't even know what the capacity of a spray line is. It's probably like 5,000 panels a day. So we need to do 100. So spray line, not the problem. Then we went to the batch oven and said, can we fit all the panels that we need in that oven in a day? And the answer was yes. And we're like, okay, so we can sand it, we can spray it, we can dry it. Why do we have a problem? Where's the bottleneck? And so this starts the curious question of knowing my equipment can do it, but we're not doing it means that we are inherently injecting that problem into our system. By our own doing, something that we're doing is causing enough confusion and enough slowdown that we've actually created the bottleneck. So now the thinking really had to start. What are we doing to create it? So then we went step by step by step of exactly everything that needs to happen, how long each station takes, and again, mathematically confirming, yes, we have enough time. And we noticed there's probably about 10 to 12 minutes of sanding, sanding the wood and all the primer and everything. So we only have 9.3 minutes a door. So right away we know, well, there's not enough time to sand. If we're using one person, we need 2 sanders. So right away we can make a rule and say we need 2 people sanding all the time. That buys us 5.5 minutes per door and 4 minutes to get all the rest of it done. So we've established our first rule is we always need 2 people sanding. So we knew our equipment could do it. Now we know we have enough people to do it. So now the problem is really the system, or in 99% of all cases, the lack of a system. Now, you have, with a finishing room, you have parts flowing in at different rates and in different quantities. So we've got some parts that come in quick that are purchased. We've got some that are easy to make, so they fly in. We've got some custom ones that we don't know when they're gonna get there because they're custom, and I mean, it could take a week, it could take a day. And then we've got finished parts that need to go back to assembly so that they can continue with the assembly. So we've got 4 trains of parts. And so what was important to establish here was actually production triggers. Now, a lot of people will have a schedule that they release things on and say, well, we release the custom stuff, you know, a week before, and then we start cutting cabinets. And that's like okay solution, but schedules, as you know, they're not gonna pan out. So we would rather create production triggers that say, you know, when this thing happens, it triggers the cutting of this thing. So when all of my custom parts are done and in the booth, then that triggers the manufacture of the cabinets. Or when my doors are finished and QC'd and ready to go, that triggers the production of my cabinets. Whatever works for you. But having a trigger instead of a schedule is what's gonna allow your shop to not build things when they're not needed. So for example, if you have 2 jobs in the finishing room, job A was scheduled to be done in week 1, job 2 is scheduled to be done in week 2. Now, job A, you drop a door or wreck a panel. Now that one is waiting, but job B goes through. But your schedule says job A should be cut first. So your whole team's cutting job A where there's no finished parts ready when job B's finished parts are ready first and there's no cabinets ready. Whereas if you rely on production triggers, job A got delayed, job B went through and it got finished and it hit the trigger first, which triggered then the cutting department, hey, cut job B first, not job A. So production triggers allow you to build the thing you need when you need it. Very critical. So our next step in trying to figure out what was going on, and up until this point, all of us are still equally as lost. We are trying to figure out, hey, our machines can do it, our people can do it, our system, let's check that out. Now, so what we did was we just kind of drew the shop out rough here, and you saw in the earlier pictures, we had all the salt and pepper shakers out on the table. And so what those salt and pepper shakers were representing was racks of parts. And we started moving them through the shop at the right tempo and watching what was happening. And within like 5 minutes, there was a huge cluster of salt and pepper shakers all in the back of the spray room. And 5 of us around a table concentrated on it, couldn't keep it straight. And I'm like, if we can't keep it straight here with a simple model, my goodness, out on the factory floor, you guys must be pulling your hair out. So from there, we deduced, listen, this is too complicated. We need something simple, something way more simple. So what we did was we took our target for the day, and this happens all the time, by the way. People get a hold of like the 8 Deadly Ways, so they read a couple lean books and they're like, we're gonna make everything one at a time, and it's like, pump the brakes. You know, batches are theoretically bad, but also quite necessary depending on the constraints in your system. So what we did was we actually looked at each piece of equipment and said, what is each piece of equipment like? The robot, what is it like? The robot's designed for single piece flow, no problem there. We go to the spray machine. What does that one like? This is a batch producing monster of a machine. So it not only likes batches, it forces you to do batches. It would be impossible to run it any other way. So what we ended up having to do was increase the batch size that was going into the spray room in order to better utilize that machine. Now, remember, this is the most important rule. If I could give you one rule of manufacturing, subordinate all activity to the bottleneck. That means every station must run at the speed of the bottleneck. So if you have a bottleneck in your sanding department and you can only sand a door every 4 minutes, Well, 4 minutes is with a robot. You're not sanding them at 4 minutes if you don't have a robot. Then your spray line, which can spray a door every 5 seconds, you must slow down. You must run that piece of equipment at the same speed as your sanding department, or all you're gonna do is create a ton of confusion and a ton of overproduction, and just sheer chaos will ensue. And that's exactly what was happening here. Everybody's mindset was, we need to run the machine, we need to run the machine, we need to run the machine. So they're like running the machine, and then these big batches of parts are coming out, and then it's a big panic to get them all sanded. So you got 4 or 5 people sanding, and then it goes back into the spray room, but then those people sanding aren't doing anything. So what we had to do is create a system that leveled that system. You know, Japanese heijunka was level out that production so there is no peaks and valleys. We're doing the same parts, and absolutely critical to that was slowing down that spray line. All right, so what we ended up doing next was to create buffers between the stations, and we took our target number and made that our new batch size. So instead of processing 14 pieces at a time, we increased it to one batch of 45 pieces at a time. And I know all you lean people are like, wow, you're increasing your batch size. Well, watch what happens. So what we did was we took away all the confusion, and we said, listen, instead of feeding things in and out of the booth all day and cycling all these parts around, we're gonna take that entire batch and we're gonna sand it in a day, and it's gonna be waiting for the finishing line in the morning, because remember, that spray line needs batches. So now we're only processing 45 pieces at each station at any given time. And the number one key to getting this thing coordinated and organized was throttle back the incoming work to the pace of your daily target. So if you have 45 pieces coming in and that's your target, and you get done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my God, whatever you do, do not pull in more work. It sounds so counterintuitive, and probably social media is gonna blow up over this one. I don't care. So you gotta throttle back that incoming work, because you're just gonna create confusion for the system, and you're gonna create stress and unpredictability further upstream. So if the shop knows every day I need to have 45 pieces there, and then you get overexcited one day and finish 60, then all of a sudden they're like gonna be scrambling, and that scramble is gonna happen through your shop, through your engineering, through your sales, through your marketing. It's just chaos. You have to level all of that out at your targets. And then of course we don't leave people standing around with their hands in their pockets, but that's kind of phase one, was just get the system working, and then when we find we have extra time, then we'll start filling the extra time with value-added work. But step one is get the system working. Now, let's go out to the shop floor and I'll show you how it's working. I didn't get here in time to get you any before footage, but just imagine a shop full of racks everywhere, and now in behind me we've created a simple internal Kanban with 2 boxes, and in each box the factory just needs to focus on having 45 pieces there for the following day. That's it. Then we go over to the sanding area, and I mean, it honestly looks like nothing's happening, and that's when you know you've got it exactly right. When there's no chaos, the system's functioning, the parts go from the sanding cell, either they go through the robot or just on the flat bench if they're big, and then into this box, where by the end of today there should be 45 pieces sitting waiting for the spray booth tomorrow. And there's no confusion on the shop floor as to what to work on. There's no carts everywhere, there's no racks everywhere. It's just like, it's beautiful. Then we come into what they call the clean room, where all the painting gets done. And I'm standing here and look, it's just, again, it's beautiful. Every day, all they have is their 3 racks that need to get done. They pull them in, and it's almost like low stress, no stress. Like, is that all we have to do today? You know, you're not constantly pulling in new parts. and everything I think it's about 11 o'clock, and everything is flowing through here like lickety split today. So great success so far. I'm really excited to see how this pans out at the end of the day. I just learned from our team here that we only have 2 more panels to sand, and that's the stuff that got sprayed this morning going in for top coating now, and it's only 11 o'clock. So that means we're officially halfway through the work, and we look like we're about halfway through tomorrow's whitewood sanding as well. It's pretty hard to say this ain't working. So I know that was a pretty long, convoluted video, and I just hope that kind of exposing some of the back end thinking is gonna help some folks. You know, and probably the takeaways from this video are gonna be simple. Like, first one, subordinate your activity to the bottleneck. Second one is your batch size. I want people to stop thinking single piece flow is the answer. It is the ultimate answer, but the chances of getting there are very slim. So you want to be thinking about optimal batch size rather than single piece flow. But at the same time, you want to be driving that batch size down. But there's, like, if this is optimal, you want to drive your batch size down. It's possible to drive it down lower, but then you're going to see no benefits. You want to be able to understand where that optimal batch size is, or get some help understanding it. But other than that, I hope this helps some folks. Now, get back into those finishing rooms and make some improvements.